Hi guys, I am Nu-Trix the Synth guy, and today I'm going to talk about the process of one of my latest songs I'm working on, which is called Light System. And I started the project using Gadget a year and a half ago on a flight. I forgot about it, and I decided to finish that song about a month ago. So what I did after that is actually use Gadget, the original tracks I did, to trigger the hardware I have got here, recorded it back in, and then because I don't like Gadget to mix, I went into Cubasis 3. Yes, me, I did go into Cubasis 3 because I'm still looking for the right mixing environment on the iPad. I used to love Auria Pro. Now it crashes on me all the time. I don't know if my iPad or if it's not. I still have a 12-inch first generation of the iPad Pro. Most time it works, but I can see that in Auria Pro, it crashes a lot. It crashes all the time. I'm losing plugins, presets, and so I stopped using it. I did work a couple of mixes with Zenbeats, you saw it, but now I wanted to test Cubasis 3 with all the plugins that it has in it. I got an email from Stangberg, and they were nice enough to provide me with a license of Cubasis 3. So I got the license, no payments outside of that. I just got the free license, and they asked me, well, if you want to use it, go ahead. So I did a mix with it. It's going to be the mix you're going to hear at the end of the video if you want to listen to the song. My final mix I did on Cubasis, and I'm pretty happy of what you can do with it. Stay with me. At the end of the video, I will explain how you could win with me and Stangberg a couple of cool plugins that are native to Cubasis. See you at the end. So, what I did, I actually started making that song on the flight from Montreal to Zurich. I was going to Berlin about Halloween time last year. Actually, 2019. Halloween time, 2019. I started to work on my iPhone, copy it to the iPad, compose it, and it sounds a little bit like this. And that's how it sounded. So I'm using basically a couple of synthesizers, one drum, the Tokyo also beatbox, and 4 different synthesizers. 3 being monophonic, 1 being polyphonic. The Montpellier is polyphonic. So that's it. It works. Very simple thing. Further so you have an idea of where it can go. So, I had fun. So that was composed, the startup was in the flight, in the plane, and I worked on it on and off. I put it aside for a couple of months, and then I looked at it again. I mostly work while I travel, or I compose while I'll travel, or I compose when I'm on vacation. With the pandemic, this year was a weird vacation, but still, I was able to push that song a little bit further. And Christmas time, again, on vacation, I decided to push it again further. So I decided to finish it. So now what I did, when Cubasis came into play, I said, okay, I'm going to test out how I can mix with Cubasis to have a real mix that I like and I want to use. So one cool thing about Gadget is you can actually double your tracks or duplicate your tracks. You basically go into Function and you duplicate a track, and then you change the assignment and you assign it to the type A, and it becomes a MIDI out, and then you assign it to a MIDI out, and then you can trigger your stuff. I have a Rubik's interface from Roland that has audio and MIDI out, and using my good old dongle, I was able to convert this into that, you know, this into MIDI, and trigger the TR-8S. I didn't have this system made at that point. I had the the GP8000. So I triggered a GP8000, triggered the Arturia MicroFreak, and the Novation MONO STATION as my analog. You'll see distortion lead. So that's, you know, the synthesizer that replaced basically the one you see on screen with these. So I recorded the audio. Actually, no, what I did play that and recorded in my computer using, and that's a crazy part. I've got an MX1 from Roland. That mixer provides 16 different inputs plus the master main out, so 18 different inputs. So every device I send into this is a separate input into my computer. And I didn't even use a dedicated computer software for a DAW. I did only turned on QuickTime from the Mac and say, I want to record from the MX1, and then I've got all the separate tracks in it, in my video capsule. That's the hard thing to manage after, but I was able to get a video snapshot. Actually, I'm going to play a bit of this. So that was recorded one shot, all the tracks in there, they're all separate. And then I put that into Final Cut. I know I've got a weird way for using this time, but my logic was to record all of this the simplest way possible. Now in Final Cut, I can actually hear all of these tracks separately. I exported it as separate tracks and then load that back into Cubasis. Actually, let's go back into Cubasis now. So in Cubasis, I was able to actually load my tracks. Then I went a little bit further with the song. I started chopping section because as I told you earlier, that song is a little bit loopy. I mean, you hear the same rhythm over again, a little bit hypnotic in a way if you want to, but I wanted to evolve, you know. So I started to chop thing up. You see that there's a lot of chopping here, sections, and I doubled the tracks. So sometimes I have to double the tracks because I want a track with the effects, the other one with a different effect. So I started to do what I called editing or production, because it was not into creation anymore. I was into structuring it so it sounds more interesting as it evolved into time. And I found that Cubasis has, first of all, it sounds good. The algorithm of the mixer is high enough that you don't hear, you know, weird stuff happening. I had more CPU power. I would say more optimized than, of course, Auria Pro, which crashed on my computer, and even Zenbeats. Zenbeats, I love it to create. I think it's easy to create beats, but when I mix, I see that it becomes really rapidly, you know, to the maximum of this iPad, which is an old one. I must, you know, I do accept the fact that it's an old one, but I'm still trying to get the most out of it. So, and Cubasis seems to use, in a better way, the CPU, so it seemed to be less to the maximum of its capacity. So I don't know if it's somewhere how it's different, but it is different. So this version now is not using Gadget sound anymore. I use Gadget to create because it was just in a portable device, like I would use Zenbeats also to create as a portable device. I might keep the sound after. In this case, I did not. I triggered all the hardware and I got something that sounds like this. Oops, wait a sec. Go to the beginning. So I've got that track. If I click on the track, I look at the insert because that's basically what I did. I have the wave plugin. I have also in this one, I've got the Studio EQ, which is pretty damn good. I have the Studio EQ and the Wow, which is an effect I use here. So let's start from the beginning. So play this. You hear that? So you get the drum on one section here. And again, you can actually, like I love to have, you can loop parts, you know. So I'm going to loop that part. I'm going to loop that section. It's going to loop again and can actually work just on that part. Let's bring that in. So this one here, this is the JP8000. Okay. This is the MicroFreak from Arturia. Now on this one, I have a channel strip and I have a noise gate, because this actually, when I use this to bring the volume up, it has a noise floor that I didn't expect to have, because when I play it, I don't hear it. But when it was recorded, either I was too low in volume, so I had to bring it up. But still, I had a noise floor. So the noise gate, that's a really cool thing to use. You don't have to clean up everything. You just turn on the noise gate and you play with it. So I have a compressor, and I've got a Studio EQ to, well, just tweak a little bit of the bass. For the light system, which is the JP8000, there's actually nothing on this one. This is the straight JP8000 sound. Okay, this one here. So that one is the straight JP8000, whereas this one is the JP8000 with effects. I'm just going to play this one here. It goes into the Studio EQ. So it's cutting everything that is low, because my JP8000 used to play two sounds. It used to play upper sound, which was kind of more of a pad, and the lower sound, which was a bass line. So I wanted to just cut the bass line and just have the pads with the effects so it sounds wider. So this one has the wave plugin that is a delay plugin. And you can actually win 3 of these plugins at the end again. So after that, we have the drum of the TR-8S. This one is just going into the Wave L1 Plus, just to be sure you bring out the volume. I already had the sound I wanted, so it was not about changing the sound of it. It was just to keep the quality and the sound to the right volume. Here, you also have a JP8000. And now this one goes into the Wow. So this one, if you actually solo it, so that's with the Wow, which is a cool pedal, weird modulating with distortion effect. I like it. So that would be kind of the beginning of the song. Go further. Then you have this one. So this one, I'm just gonna loop that. Wait, come here. Okay, loop this one. I love that sound. This one, if you look at it, you have stereo width, so you get a wide sound, plus you get an audio track, which is EQ and compressor. In this case, I'm really just using compressor to squash a little bit, so you don't have to, because when the resonance turns on, it really becomes really loud, so I wanted to squash it a little bit. But if you go back here and you look at stereo EQ, the stereo, if I turn this off, it becomes mono, and you have this white sound, which is really cool. So that is built in. This is really nice. It's part of the effects pack one. Cool thing to have. You might win it at the end. What we have after that, we have the same again, same track, but then it goes into wider. Again, it's another one from Polyverse. I did a video about it. It's going to be here. And also, I'm using Fuzz +3, an audio damage one, which is just like nasty distortion. And you can hear that. I just really like that. It has that like really razor sharp type of distortion. You have this, and gradually it dies out into the rest of it. So very simple. And then I said, okay, one of the things I liked about Auria Pro is the automation. You can actually go into mixer mode and you can actually write automation. You see the R, it's reading mode. So if you press W and you press play, whatever you do, and you press record, and you start doing your passes, and then you do EQ and moving and volume and muting, it will record that. So this is really useful. A little bit like what I did with Auria Pro before that. But what really sells me to this now is the fact that if you go into the master out, if you go edit, I have the wave L1 plus here. So it's on my master out. I can use this just to squash a little bit the signal so I don't have too much stuff peeking out like the kick and the snare, because that's often the kick that's just gonna distort. But if you want more control than this, because I didn't want to have too much, because I did already like what I had, you also have, and that's a really cool thing, is the internal effect. You have the master strip, and this is massive. Now, I find that most the preset that was there didn't go with my liking, but you can actually go into presets, and there's a lot of presets here you can play. Actually, the ones from the 80s and the 90s sounded better, in my view, less compressed, less squashed for the master. But this is a multi-band compressor, and it's just, and then you've got a stereo imager, and you have a loudness maximizer into one plugin. So for doing mastering for your songs, this is just really, really efficient. This is really cool. But in my case, I didn't need that, so I stayed with the L1 instead. So if you want to win this, now there's two things. I'm going to play the song, the whole thing. You're going to have the footage, well, I did record it the first time, but with the mix that I did with Cubasis. Okay? So you got an original footage of me recording, but the mixed version. That's the logic. But if you want to win one of these plugins, it's going to be a Wave plugin bundle. The FX Pack 1 and the FX Pack 2 and the classic machines, all of them will be given separately. 4 different plugins to give away. I don't know, let's say we have up to next Friday, okay? Up to next Friday, for anybody who did comment in the comments in the video, you get a chance of winning it. That's it. Simple, So let's actually listen to the song if you want to. If not, see you next time. Cheers, guys.